All right, we are live. Welcome everybody to the Maverix Lifestyles Rogue Hangout. It's Alicia Drew here, and I want to thank you all for being with us today, all of our regulars. And if you are new, we would love to hear from you, so please introduce yourself below in the chat. And if you are one of our regulars, feel free to ask questions, join in the conversation below, because we have a very special guest here with us today. It's just going to be myself today. And we have the lovely Sue Price from Noosa, Australia with us today. And she's going to be sharing with us her story, her struggles, her challenges, her mission, and how it is that she actually went from a CPA to a work-from-home entrepreneur. So we're very honored to have Sue with us today. And I'm going to bring her out right now and get going so she can start and share, just touch on exactly how it is that you got started in this community that we're involved in today, Sue. So take it away.
Okay. Well, CPA actually goes back quite a while, but I want to fill you in with a little bit of that story because it builds to this one. I married my husband, and he had three kids already, so I had inherited three stepkids. And then we had a daughter, and I had a little accounting practice. We were living in country Western Australia, and my husband had a farm machinery dealership. And I saw my practice when my daughter was born because I wanted to be home with her. And there weren't the options then. I'm going back 30 years. So, there was no internet, and to me, it was just like I either went to work or I didn't. And that's what women sort of did then. And daycares were just starting. Anyway, the first couple of years were all good. And then my husband, he was a dealer for a company called International Harvester out of the States. And they went into liquidation in the States, receivership. And overnight, we basically didn't have a viable business. And we had lots of stock, lots of stuff. And my husband had grown up. It was his dad had started the business. He didn't know what he was going to do. He didn't have any qualifications per se. But of course, I did. I was an accountant. And I was like, well, I can get a job, I'll go back to accounting. And that's basically what I did. And we moved from the country town Esperance that we were living in. You may be familiar with that, Alicia, and moved up to Perth. And I actually went to work for the guys that had bought my practice. And my mother was horrified at the idea of my daughter going into daycare, and she wanted to take care of her. And I felt like that was too much for Mum. So I actually put Shannon, our daughter, into daycare some of the time, and Mum had her some of the time. So it was a balance, but I still remember the pain of dropping her the first day, and I cried my heart out all the way in the car to work. And it was like that for me every time I dropped her. I hated it so much. In the end, my husband used to drop her because, it was really, really hard. And that, right through, I went from being a CPA. We started a financial planning dealership out of the practice. And in the end, my husband and I bought out some other guys. Anyway, that was a long story that I'll make very short. And we had a financial planning business, and we built that up to a sizable business. So while my daughter was growing up, she had a mixture of daycares, aftercare. They'd have these aftercare things at school. And then as my stepkids got a bit older and they were going to university, someone would pick her up, and some of them were working for us part-time. And my daughter went to her first university lecture when she was 7 because my oldest stepson was at uni, and he took her with him because that was the alternative. Overall, did she miss out? Yeah, I think you miss out to some degree not being around your mum, but I missed out. That's my point. And what I witness now, and what the internet allows people to do, is do stuff very, very differently. So from there, from the financial services business, I ended up changing careers a few times, did some business coaching, and I ended up being part of a business that promoted American speakers out here in Australia. And one of them was Robert Kiyosaki, and that was beautiful because I knew Robert way before he wrote Rich Dad Poor Dad anyway. And so I ended up the CEO of that company. He actually wanted my husband and I to move to South Africa, of all places, to open up a company to support him. And I really didn't want to go to South Africa. only because I've heard too many horror stories with people I've worked with when I lived in Perth. And so one of the other speakers, and this is the transition into working on the internet from home, I guess, one of the other speakers that we used to bring up was a guy called Corey Rudel. And most, if you listen to anyone that's been in internet marketing from way back, like he is responsible for Frank Kern learned from Corey. If you're in the internet marketing space, you'll know who Frank Kern is. People that many of us know, names like Tony Rush, learned from Corey. And Corey was a young guy, a young Canadian actually, Vancouver. He was living, when I met him, he was living just out of LA. And he was teaching people how to become internet marketers, early days in internet. And I remember I went on a tour of Australia with him. It was one of my first tours I did with this company. And it was a different world. I went, oh my God, this would be so wonderful. And he used to tell the story of how he started off, he had an ebook thing, and then he turned it into a book, and he started selling that from his bedroom. And then he moved on to teaching people. And I used to hang on to every word he said. But I had this mental block too, because I really was technophobic almost. And I grew up in an era, as a CPA, we had someone else do our typing even. I couldn't even, type. And it was prior, well, we did have computers, but not everyone had a computer on their desk way back. And so when I finally got a laptop, I was really clumsy with it. And the most I could do with it was send an email. And this sounds very glamorous, but it's not. The practicality of me doing a home-based business, because I'd had personal assistants and staff and things since I was really young. Got in accounting, I got into management quite young. And therefore, I kept going, how could I do this? And I can remember just listening to Corey. And tragically, Corey, when that business, Robert stopped traveling for a while and different people, and we decided that everyone was, it sounds glamorous being with speakers, but I was on the road a lot and away. And at that point in time, I was away from my then teenage daughter a lot. And it wasn't as glamorous as it sounds. So transition, I decided that I wanted to do something on the internet, and I didn't really know what. And Corey had basically said, I can mentor you, blah, blah. And he was killed very tragically. He was age 34, and he did everything fast. Like when he was talking at his workshop seminars, we used to hold up signs saying, slow down, because he talked so fast, people couldn't understand what he was saying. And he did everything fast, and he loved fast cars, and he drove at Speedway. So he and one of his friends were driving a new Porsche or something on a test run on a Speedway track, and he was killed, basically. They went into a wall. And I only say this because this is how technophobic I was. It was like, how am I ever going to do this without Corey? It was just so stupid. But I sort of told myself that. My husband, we were living in Sydney. We had 10 years in Sydney with various businesses. And my husband, being a country boy, really didn't like it. He didn't like a city that big, basically. And I live in a place called Noosa, which is, for Americans, it's a little like, I went to Maui once. I've only been to Hawaii once, and I fell in love with it. And when I came to Noosa, I went, this is the best next thing that at least we've got in Australia. So it's very green, very lush, it's subtropical, and it's gorgeous. And we sort of had this thing, we always wanted to live here one day. And then a friend of ours had moved to the Sunshine Coast, not in Noosa, but close to where I am. And he'd started playing around with this internet thing. So long story, my husband and I moved here, and I was going into business with this guy. And basically we were selling hats, caps, like corporates would buy them, lanyards, just stuff that was branded and have the design work done and whatever. Now, bearing in mind, I've already said I was technically challenged. And I'm trying to do these little tiny graphic things. Honestly, I still don't do my own graphics to this day. I mean, I can use Canva, but it's like, it was so challenging for me. The business was also anything but automated. And it taught me, sometimes in life, I think we do things to work out what we don't want to do. We were still handling product. And I didn't want that. I really wanted something that, I didn't have to handle the product, and we could have used drop shippers, and some of the time we did, and we went through that phase, but it wasn't all that profitable what we were doing. And so I transited out of there. Then while I'd been involved with promoting Robert Kiyosaki, of course, we had, I think every network marketer in Australia was a client, and I had so many people that had wanted me to join a network marketing company. And funny thing is, my husband was in Amway when I married him way back, and he really just did it to buy the, to use the products. But yeah, he did it a bit. And I thought it was crazy. And so then I met all these other network marketers through Robert, and some of them were doing really well. So I understood then that it was a business model and it works. So while I was in that company, of course, everyone, like so many people, tried to recruit me because they wanted to get their hands on our database. I'm guessing. Maybe they had different intentions, but and we had a thing that we didn't join any company because there was too many that were our clients, etc. So when I was out of that, moved to Noosa, figuring out what to do so I can stay here and not go back to the previous life, I joined a network marketing company and started off like most people in network marketing companies, friends, family, all that stuff. And I did okay, but clearly I live in a small place and I could see the potential if I needed to go online with it. So I really came back online with that company at the time to figure out how to do this. I built my first WordPress blog, which was, again, very challenging. But I was determined to push through. And, so many other people my age, like baby boomers, just go, I can't do that. I didn't grow up with computers, so I can't do it. And I was determined that I was going to get through it and get through my own head. And fortunately, I'd been around personal development enough to know that I needed to change my mindset. And, that's what I did. The current company that we're part of, I transitioned, I jumped companies for a couple of times, and I don't particularly, I've never thought that was an attractive thing to do, but what I was promoting first up just didn't really work for me. And then I got attracted to another company, which was sort of technologically based, and they needed to put in more equipment in Australia. They were always going to do it, but they never did. So that didn't work out. And meanwhile, I joined a friend who is in the current company, and then she left, and I was sort of in limbo land for a very long time. But the thing that attracted me to it was I didn't have to handle product. It's all technology, it's digital products, it's training, and I loved the mindset of the company. That's really through my own challenges and through the challenges, I just love the mindset. I love what the business was about. And because here's the thing, even when my husband and I had financial services business in my days of accounting, I somehow stumbled across personal development at a pretty young age. And my husband and I did our first course with Robert Kiyosaki 20 plus years ago. And we decided that we wanted to work with people that were into self-improvement. So almost everyone that ever worked with us, it was sort of a condition of becoming, we made it pretty clear that you had to either be working on yourself or it wouldn't work out working for us. And so we always had a culture around us of growing people and developing people. So to find a company that was sort of in my mind, I didn't even think it was a network marketing company. Well, it was like a hybrid of an affiliate marketing, network marketing company. To find a company that's about empowering people just felt right. It felt like this amazing thing. And having grown up in an era where I went back into the workforce with a very young child, which hadn't been my intention, and feeling like that's the one thing I can never get back. We've had ups and downs in businesses. You know, that first time we walked away, you know, from everything and got our life back together again, and we've done it a couple of times over. You know, you have challenges in life, but you never, ever, ever get the time back with your kids as a parent. And I now watch some of the people like in our company, you know, the names, there's lots and lots of them, Lawrence Tan, Mike Hobbs, these guys. It's not just women, there's a lot of women that are staying at home, the unstoppable family, their story, you know. The story after story after story of families that are able to work out of home and be with their kids and be part of their kids' life. Like, you know, I was fortunate enough that we had our own business, that when my daughter did have sports, I could take time out and go to her sports, and I did. But not everyone even gets to do that. They miss sports days. They miss so much of their kids' life. So I'm really, really, really passionate about helping people do life differently, because the internet wasn't available in my younger days, but now we can do life so differently. Mm-hmm. So that's a transition over a lot of years. And yeah, I don't know, Alicia, is there anything you want me to elaborate on with that? Or?
Yeah, really, really interesting stories, Sue. You know, I'm so happy that you're here with us today, because wow, I mean, your entire story, you've touched on so many different aspects of, you know, life and what we do here. And I heard a reoccurring theme through your entire story. And one of them was that you kept mentioning that you weren't technically inclined. And then we talk about how the internet wasn't available. I mean, the internet's only been around for about 20 years. Mm-hmm. And before that, it was not available. And, you know, for people of, you know, a certain age group, I think that they do have, in a sense, a block when it comes to technology, because they didn't actually grow up with it. It's not mm-hmm. part of who they are. It's not, you know, normal, so to speak. And many people shy away from it, and they tell themselves that, oh, I can't do that. You know, that's not something I'm able to do. I don't want a text message. I don't want to, you know, get on Facebook. I don't know how to send an email, just basic things. And it really is just a block. And when this generation of people can sit back and realize, hey, I am capable of doing this, you know, this thing out there, the internet is so powerful. And if I just tap into it a little bit and I start to learn, you know, little bits as I move forward and realize that I can actually reach people across the globe, it's an absolutely incredible, you know, piece of invention. And it was, as I said, only 20 years ago, this was created. I mean, I'm 35 years old, and I can think back to sitting in front of the television before we had remote controls and having to get up off the couch to change the channel. I mean, can you even imagine doing that now? Can children right now imagine doing that? No. If you told them they had to do that, they'd be like, what? You know, I remember the days of cassettes. You know, I'd sit there and, you know, record the top 40, and I have to press play and pause, and I have to rewind and fast forward the track to listen to things. You know, now that's just unheard of. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And I think it's so fascinating. I mean, you know, just the way that we've evolved, you know, through the years, especially recently. And I mean, my grandparents are in their 90s, and the things that they have seen, it's just unbelievable how far we've come. And we really do have to move with the times, or we're going to get stuck in the dark ages, I guess you could say. And, you know, anyone who's 40 and over, now is the time to realize that you can actually get on the internet and do something amazing with your life. And, you know, another reoccurring theme you mentioned, Sue, was the time with your children. time with family and friends, we can never get that back. And it is our most valuable asset. And it's what everybody wants. I mean, we all have our different ideas of what freedom is, but we all want our time back with the people we want to share that with. And in this day and age, we have that opportunity. Way back when, they'd never had that. They had to go to work all day long every day. They had to do what they had to do. But now there are other options. And that's what we're here to share, that message with so many people, that you don't have to be the most technically inclined person. Yeah, you'll need to learn a few things. We're not saying that you won't, but especially within our community, we have things set up so that even the most technically unsavvy person in the world can get started when they hit the link below this video and get in, plug in. And I mean, we're not saying it's easy. We're just saying it's going to be worth it. And you have an entire community of people that help you along the way. So if it is something that you think you want to do, you need to tell yourself that maybe I can do this. Maybe there is another way, and maybe I can learn this technical thing. Maybe it's not so bad after all, because that's really the process of learning. So I just think it's so fascinating, the options that we have, in this day and age to get going with things. And, if people keep drawing the line in the sand and saying, hey, well, nope, I can't do that, then they're going to keep slaving away at their job if they don't like it. They're going to keep missing out on that time with the people that they love. And they don't have to these days. And that's what I think is really awesome about it. So, Sue, you also mentioned that you worked with Robert Kiyosaki. Can you kind of elaborate a little bit more on how he actually is as a person? And I mean, I haven't read too many of his books, but I've read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and dived into a few of his things, and I think he's amazing. And you've worked very closely with him by the sounds of things. So, I mean, if you can elaborate a little bit on that time, that would be awesome.
Yeah, sure. Number one, you may know, as an Australian, you'll like this one, Alicia. You probably don't even know. His book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, actually became a bestseller down here first. When Robert wrote that book, now I go back with him, heck, I must have known him for, I'm just trying to think which year he wrote it. I must have known him best part of 10 years by then. And he really wanted to, he'd always had a goal to get out there and get this information out there. And he wrote the book, went to, I think, just about every publisher in the States and got rejected. They said it wouldn't sell. And I love these stories. And so he self-published over there. Then he came out to the people that later became part of their business. They had promoted him in days before in Australia. And he came to them and said, would they be interested in getting behind this book? So we actually had it published here first. And the guy that published it in Australia even, he just said, this is badly written, because Robert wrote that book just like he talks. Like if other books later, Sharon Lecter, who was then his business partner, did some of the editing and other people did. But that very first book is Robert Raw. That's how he talks. And I love it for that reason, because that's who he is. And so, but the guy that published it said, this is never going to sell. Well, it did. It sold very quickly down here. It became a bestseller here, then New Zealand, right on the back of it. And then the next goal that Robert had, and I'm going to tell this story because I think it's one that we can all take on board and learn from. Success didn't just happen. He worked his butt off. Like, sure, the book, we did a lot of promotion to get the book out there too. He came down and toured and, went from place to place doing events, and we promoted the book. We had a great publicist, all of that stuff. Mm-hmm. But he and his wife, Kim, had a goal to get on Oprah because they knew that would change their world. In America, he couldn't get traction in America. No one, he just couldn't. He was getting famous down here, but not in America. So Kim rang Oprah's show so many times and just kept pushing, and they kept getting rejected, pushing. And he was actually down here in Australia doing something, and they got a phone call from Oprah's staff saying, yeah, she'd agreed after they'd been through the vetting process of him or whatever to have him on the show, and he had to be, and it was like next week. So he cut his stay down here and went to back to America. And my business partners, who ended up living in America, actually, I wasn't part of their business then. I was just good friends. And they went over to the show. And apparently, you know, they just said it was just so amazing. His book was like, I want to say whatever it was on Amazon, like it might have been number 100, I don't know, whatever. Went to number 1 overnight and stayed there for 2 years. It became number 1 on the New York bestseller. Is that the list? Yeah, the list, and stayed there for a couple of years. His second book, Cash Flow Quadrant, which hadn't even been hardly heard of, became number 6 overnight. Both books, just by being an Oprah. And I really share that story because I think it's valuable for anyone building a business. You know, they pushed. They got rejected. They got rejected by publishers. They got rejected by the Oprah shows and kept pushing with a different angle. How can I get on? How can I get on? That's going to change it. And from there, you know, he just took off. How is he as a person, to answer your question? Look, I think of him as Robert, Alicia. If you've ever become really, really that famous, and this is the first time we've actually talked, do you know what I mean? Like, because I knew him before, to me, he's Robert. And he's actually, I want to say shy. He's not a social, Kim, his wife, is a real social butterfly. So when I used to be in Phoenix at their office, you know, Kim and some of the girls in the office and my partner Susie over there would all go out for drinks and stuff like that. Robert, can he socialize? Of course he can, but he'd prefer not to. He likes to be in teacher mode. I think he sees his role on the planet as having come here as Robert Kiyosaki to create the change for people, to be a catalyst for change. That's how he sees himself. So he's often in your face. If he doesn't like something that you do, he'd let you know pretty quick. I like it. I like him a lot. He's an interesting man. Very big picture. Doesn't do detail very well. I remember picking him up in my car one time from the hotel room to go to our office. He'd just arrived in Sydney from the States. He was a bit jet lagged for sure. And he asked me about 4 times in the car like, where his first event was. Like, he just doesn't hold little stuff in his head. No time for it.
It sounds like our leader, David Wood, sounds very similar.
Very similar. And when I hear David like that, similar. Robert's the same. You know, he has to have a band of people to make sure he's on time, that he does stuff. Remind him, like as time went on, and he'd be out here and he had lots of radio interviews and stuff like that. So we had constantly had a schedule, but even then he wouldn't look at it. So, you know, we had someone with him assigned to being his personal assistant in every city. And, so he's such a big picture, such a forward thinker, such a whatever, but he's a really nice guy. You know, he's in your face, as I say, really, really honest. And when I say nice guy, he said to me once, one of the other guys, there was a few people that published books under the Rich Dad brand. And one of them was Sales Dogs. And there's a guy called Blair Singer who had that book. And Blair is, like a lot of people go, he's so nice. He would never be in your face like Robert is. And Robert said to me one day, he said, you know what? The worst thing anyone can ever call me is nice. So he wouldn't like me calling him nice because he doesn't like, he thinks nice is flaky, you know? And he's just, but I became part of that business because I'd sort of always had from when we first did seminars with him, then a lot of our staff at the time did seminars, and I sort of always got on pretty well with him, and he really wanted me to be part of it. And so it was a cool experience. You know, I loved the 5 years I had there. At the end of the time, I was really tired. Like, I think I had a third of the last year I was there in hotel rooms. Often, sometimes my husband would join me briefly, but usually not. So, you know, it gets to a stage where you go, is this really how I want to keep living my life? But it's an experience I'll never regret. It was very cool.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. Yeah, so there's the reoccurring theme again of the time. You know, you obviously hit a point where you thought, okay, is this what I ultimately, want to continue doing, and how can I get more time back for myself?
Yeah. Well, you know what happened for me, Alicia, the turning point? We had another speaker that we were promoting, a guy called Dr. Fred Gross, Grosse. He's from New York originally and lives between Phoenix and Christchurch in New Zealand now. He married a Kiwi girl. Mm-hmm. He runs like a mentor class, and it's about designing a life. So that's his teaching. It's all about designing your life, and mainly works with business people, like business people who were very much like me, like caught up in growing a business, but no real life. And we've all heard the stories in our businesses. So many people, that had corporate careers and they left them because they just didn't have any other life. And so my husband and I decided to do this 1-year mentor class with him, and we met every 3 months for 2 days, and then you had stuff to do in between. And one of the first exercises was, design your ideal day. And then you had to put it over 2 weeks. And I was going to say you had to do it for a fortnight, but that's an Aussie term, isn't it? I don't think Americans say.
Yes, it's actually. It's funny that you say that. Quick little story. That is an Aussie term, and I only just found that out a couple of days ago. One of my best friends is in town at the moment, and myself and my partner John Paul took her out to Yosemite National Park. Unbelievable, like mind-blowing, beautiful place. Unbelievable. And she mentioned something and said fortnight, and he said, "What's a fortnight?" And I said, "Oh, that must be an Aussie term. I didn't realize that." So it just reminded me of that. So yes, it is an Aussie term.
Yeah. So I was about to say that, but I had to correct myself. Yeah. So we had to do an ideal day that we'd like to have over 2 weeks, and then design a 2-week period. My ideal day was, and I'll just tell you the beginning of it, because it was waking up in the morning, being able to have a swim in the ocean if I chose to, working out, having breakfast with my husband, and this sort of stuff. That was the beginning of my day. And then I had dollar productive activity, and all that stuff through the day, and different things. And I looked at it and I went, I never live a day like this. Maybe on a Sunday. I actually, this was my reality. I got up at 5:15. This was the days when I wasn't on the road traveling with speakers. So if I was in Sydney, I would get up at 5:15, pack my car with my gym stuff, drive to the other side of Sydney where our office was, and go to a gym there. Because if I went to a gym on my side, it would have made it too late to get across the bridge and get to the other side in time. And anyone that's ever worked in Sydney knows it's a pretty difficult city to get around if you've got to go from one side to the other in peak hour. So I'd do that really early. Then I'd go to the gym, have a shower at the gym, etc., get to office and eat breakfast at my desk. And I just looked at it and it disturbed me. It was the catalyst that disturbed me, like, okay. And then I looked at my ideal 2 weeks, fortnight, and I went, there's not much of it that I'm actually living the life I want to live. Mm-hmm. Sure, I'm living a very cool sort of life. I'm with some amazing people, etc. But do I want to repeat this life for the rest of my life? And it was that point that I went, no, I don't. I've got to find a different way. And for all of us, actually, the people I was working with, all of us had hit the same point. Like, this has been great, but there comes a point where, you can. And it was the first time, Alicia, the first time in my life I had thought about the fact I could live my life by design. Mm-hmm. Now I see all the young people, you and even younger, like the 20-year-olds that are coming into our company, that's just what they do. That some of the Kiwi guy, whose name escapes me, the plumber, we've all heard his story. He's traveling around the world chasing big waves, surfing, and people, there's so many opportunities now that you can do. So yeah, during that time, I went from having a great time working for some great people, getting a glimpse of the internet from Corey, and then the idea that I could even design a life and life wasn't just happening to me. You know, I could actually take charge and live it the way I want to live it.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to, on this whole topic, I don't know, did you see that video that Gary Vaynerchuk shot last week?
Yes.
Dedicated to the over 40-year-olds?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I shared it on my Facebook. You know, look, I just loved it because, and anyone that's a baby boomer like me who is online, I think was sharing it. You know, it went really viral.
Mm-hmm.
Such a strong story. But what he said was anyone over 40 should be building a business online.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, even if you're 58 years old, the possibility and probability that you will live to 98 is a very long time, because people are living longer. They're living, as you said, your grandparents are in their 90s. So anyone 58, so that's 40 more years.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a lot of 58-year-olds think my life's coming, you know, like it's nearly retirement. What am I going to do? You know, retirement, I believe, is a thing of the past. The idea of retiring and getting a pension check is fast going. And when retirement used to be 65, and I know it's the same in America as it was Australia, I think the life expectancy wasn't even that long. So no one actually got it. You know what I mean? Now the life expectancy is 30 years beyond that. People have got to, Alicia, I don't think there's any choice, really. They've got to figure out a different way of doing it. They can either continue to work for someone else for the rest, I don't know, in their 90s, is that going to work?
Mm-hmm.
Or they can take charge now and do, look, if I push through, I promise anyone can. I did not know, don't laugh at me, I did not know when I came online what a browser was. When I was building my WordPress blog, I did it through this course, and this lady asked, what browser are you using? And I was so embarrassed. I didn't even know what a browser was. I didn't know how to use a mouse. You know, it was like my husband had to help me.
I love that. That's so awesome. I mean, look at you now. Like, you are living proof that even the most technically unsavvy person that didn't really know what was going on can build a business from home.
Yeah.
You know?
And now I do periscopes, you know, like it's like, you know, and I love it. And I just want more people that to get over themselves. That's all, the only way I can put it, get over themselves and do it. You know, look, we were talking about Robert Kiyosaki. Robert Kiyosaki's, how old is Robert? I don't know, he's late 60s. You know, look at the man. He doesn't need the money, but he's out there still doing stuff, doing podcasts now, getting with it, you know, like there's amazing people with a message to spread. You know, I feel really passionate about both ends of the scale. I feel passionate about young people being able to build the life that they want, travel if that's what they want, if they choose to have children. They can be with them. They can, you know, do what people, the unstoppable family, do and flip around the world with their children. You know, and at the other end of the scale, where people are thinking that, you know, life's almost passed them by and it's too late to start this. No, it's not. You know, it really is not. I've just done a 2-week Instagram class and course, and I was a team leader for one of the groups that I was in. And there was a woman in that group who, I'm not quite sure how old she is, but she'd be a baby boomer, maybe the younger, you know, side of baby boomer. But she, hairdressing salon, never really, very, very, very computer. I don't want to say not savvy, you know, not at all. By the end of the 2 weeks, she had 2 Instagram accounts set up. She was using automation. She had built a capture funnel. Like, she didn't know what a capture page was even when we talked to her. She couldn't understand. Like, she had people trying to explain to her, oh, this is what they mean by that. Mm-hmm. Now, none of us grew up knowing what a capture page was, even your generation. You know, like, it's stuff we have to learn, but it's stuff we can learn, you know. And I cost myself a lot of money from not pushing through in the beginning and taking too long and staying in newbie zone for too long. I really encourage anyone not to do that. Just jump in and know that you can learn, you can learn, you can learn. If I can, I can.
Yeah, wow. I mean, my hair's kind of standing on end right now. It's so powerful. We're so passionate about what we're talking about here because it really is something that anyone can do. And I mean, even me, I'm quite computer savvy. I always have been. But when I first got started in this business, my partner, John Paul, got started first. And I had no idea what he was doing at first. It wasn't until about 6 months later that I actually jumped on board with him. And, I didn't know what a capture page was. I didn't know what a lead was. I didn't know what any of those marketing terms were, but because I wanted to learn, that's why we are where we are now. You have to, I think I heard Lawrence Tam say this once, you have to learn how to learn. And if you're willing to actually, get uncomfortable with being comfortable and say, hey, I don't know this, but I'm going to learn what this is. And as you said, Sue, it's like anything. I mean, we didn't, we're not born knowing anything. And, we talk about this analogy a lot, but, when we're born, we start to figure out how to crawl and how to walk, and we don't give up on that. We persist and we fall down hundreds and hundreds of times, and we get up and we do it again, and we keep doing it until we can start walking. And as adults, I think, sadly, a lot of people, they lose that fight and they forget that there was something that they were, something that they were meant to do in this life. And they kind of sleepwalk their way through life. And, when you're a child, you don't give up. There's no other alternative. And as adults, I think a lot of people, they kind of lose that quality, or they're surrounded by people that maybe don't believe in them, or maybe tell them that they can't have their dream. They can't do that. And society is creates a big part in that. Society will kind of create, like what you were talking about before, how when people get older, they think that they don't have any time left in their life. I mean, when you're in your 60s, you do, you've got a good 30, 40 years left of your life. That's a long time. And it's so ingrained in our minds that when we hit 65, our life's over. It's just like, you're done, it's over, and you're going to live off your pension, your Social Security, or whatever it is. And in this day and age, that probably won't be there for any of us. No. And you can't rely and think that it's going to be there, because, as you mentioned, Sue, people didn't live as long as they are now, and it wasn't designed for our lifestyle and the world that we live in now. And, for me, relying on anyone for an income just makes me really uneasy. I don't want to have to rely on anyone or anything but myself. And I mean, my dad just retired after 50 years of working in the same company. He started when he was 17 and he retired at the age of 65. And he's an electrical engineer, and he worked his way up from 17 and became the general manager of the company, SPI PowerNet. It used to be called the SEC. You might, Sue. But yeah, and such an amazing achievement. That's pretty much unheard of these days, for somebody to be working in a company for 50 years before they retire. And, my dad is someone who I look up to, who, created, he's the most amazing creative leader that I aspire to be like every day. He went out there and created an income for his family at such a young age and provided everything for myself and my brothers and my sisters. We never wanted for anything. We've all gone out and we've all lived our dream, because of what him and my mum created. So, and he's 65 right now, and he swims laps every single day at the pool. He does, he does races every year up at our beach house from pier to pier. He's, he has a farm, and he's up there working with the cows and the farms and helping my brother build his business with fencing and gardening. He's out there like living his life. He didn't retire and just stop and sit back on the couch and watch TV and say my life's over. It's just re-beginning for him. Now he's got more time to do the things that he loves to do. And, it just goes to show that, yeah, you really can get started. It doesn't matter how old you are. And just on that, one of our friends in our community, Chris Brindamore, he's just been at a marketing event, and he has a picture, I don't know if you've seen this, Sue, or not, with a man, he's 93 years old, and his goal is to make $80,000 in the next 8 months within his marketing business. And he's Australian, and he's a decorated World War II veteran.
Oh, how gorgeous.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Like, I look at that and it literally makes me want to cry that someone who's that age knows, yes, I can do this. And I have a goal and I'm going to make it happen because I can. 93 years old. Like, it's just unbelievable what we can do. And I think that a lot of people, they need to get out of that bubble. They need to stop listening to the media and society, you know, telling them that, you know, your life is pretty much over at 65 and this is what you have to do, and realize that, you know, it's like what you said, Sue, you hit a point where you realized, hey, I can live my life on my own terms. You know, a lot of people, I think, don't realize that they even can. The thought hasn't even come across their minds because they're so embedded in this day in, day out life that they're living, you know, and a lot of people don't like the way that they're living. And if you do, that's great. A lot of people out there love their jobs. A lot of people love that lifestyle, and that's great. But there are a ton of people out there that don't, and they're slaving away day in, day out, and they don't even realize that there is another way, you know, until they come and watch a hangout like this and hit the button below and get started, you know, until somebody says, hey, what do you think about this? Or, hey, did you ever think about this? The thought just doesn't occur to a lot of people. And that's where we come in to spread the message across the globe that things can be different for you if you want them to. So, yeah, I think it's really, really awesome. And just on what you said about Robert Kiyosaki, I remember watching the clip of him and his wife Kim on Oprah. I did see that clip, and I think I heard the story about that. And, you know, it just goes to show most people would probably call Oprah once and get rejected, and that's it. They'd be like, oh, you know, and they wouldn't even think twice about it. But the fact that they persisted, if they didn't, they probably would have never gotten on there.
No.
You know? And things wouldn't have skyrocketed the way that it did. And, you know, it just goes to show you, you know, people have to have the fight inside of them. People have to have fight inside their hearts. You can't give that to someone. You either have it or you don't, I believe. You know, it's either there or it's not. You either want it or you don't. And myself, as a professional dancer, I've been dancing since the age of 3 years old. And the only reason I got to the point in my career that I was able to live my dream, is because I fought for it. I went to audition after audition after audition, rejection after rejection after rejection. And that's what a dancer goes through day in, day out. And it's only those that quit that never get that job, that never get that show. You have to keep persisting. You know, it's very, very competitive, but if you keep pushing through, you keep fighting through each day, eventually the time will come where you can make your dream come true. You know, and for me, I hit a turning point in my career. The reason why I actually joined our community was because I actually injured myself. I'll make this quite short, but I injured myself and realized that I had to do the show anyway. I was at a point where I couldn't afford not to do the show. So I had to get up there with, you know, my bandaged ankle, in pain, and hobble along and do the show anyway. Luckily, I was working with a company that was very, very understanding of what I'd been through. And I took myself in and out of a few different numbers. But it was more the mental pain of that really plagued me. I thought to myself, what am I doing? I can't keep doing this for the rest of my life. You know, if when I hurt my ankle, what if I get hurt again? What if it's worse and I can't do the show at all? I don't have an income coming in. Yeah, I'm living my dream. I'm loving what I'm doing. But what else can I do part-time? What else can I do that can help me build that residual income, that can help me build something online where I don't have to be there to make it happen? And that's really what made me look into what my partner John Paul was doing. And like you, Sue, I love the personal development. I just dived into our community, like all the things that we have to offer and all the amazing people, I was just mind blown. I was just glued. I think the first product I took a look at was actually the Costa Rica Intensive. And I saw David Wood and everybody that was there, and David Sharp and all these things. I had no idea what all these terms were that they were teaching at the beginning. No idea. And I was like, oh, wow. So I started taking notes and, oh, what's this and what's that? And I just never looked back. It was addictive. I was like, this is just amazing. This is new. Like, I've always loved new challenges, new things. And I think that's what really kind of, just set everything off for me, and I've never looked back. It's just amazing, the people and the community that we have here. So, I mean, I could go on all day long, but yeah, back to you, Sue. I just wanted to, before we end, the time's flown. I just looked at the time, but what would you say is the biggest difference from being a CPA to being a work from home entrepreneur? What would you say is like the biggest things that you can think of, some good, some bad, whatever it may be, that would really stick out to you if somebody asked you what the big difference would be?
Okay. Being a CPA, number one, you trade your time for money. I mean, and even when I had my own business, and you literally, as a CPA, you do charge by the hour or by the 6 minutes. In one practice I first started working, like you wrote down every 6 minutes, if you a telephone call, anything. So you're trading time for money, and you're also trading time for money, meaning that you're limited to what you can earn, is part of what I'm trying to say. But the other part is that your hours are, like I saw a lot of clients, so a lot of client contact, phone calls, etc., etc. I had to work on in the hours that it was appropriate to have clients come to my office. So I was tied to the office, traded time for money, that sort of stuff, where I love the freedom of time freedom. I've still got to work every day, on my business, of course, but I can do it pretty well. I mean, there's some commitments through there, of course, but, I have the ability to be way more flexible. And I love that. I really love that. That was one thing about the designing a life. I can't think of too many negatives about working from home, because as long as you're part of a community, although when I was still trying to figure my way on what I was going to do, and I was trying to do things alone, that felt very lonely. So, I think the discipline, going to an office or going to a place of work, whatever it is, gives you some sort of social interaction with your peers, the people you work with, etc. And you've got to make sure that you somehow have that in your life when you're working out of home. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I found the most difficult in the beginning too is being disciplined with my time, because I had time freedom, and it was just like pulling here, pulling there, and people think you're home, so that I have friends drop in and stuff like that. So, I've had to deal with those things. There are some challenges like that, just figuring out how you're going to do it. But, I just, I mean, a lot of people love their professions. I'm not suggesting if you're a CPA or a doctor or whatever, and you love your profession, well done, good on you. I'd still encourage you to think about building a business like this part-time, because there will come a point in time, if you're working as a doctor, we know an eye doctor in our community, we've heard that story, like every profession trades time for money. Doesn't matter, most jobs, I mean, there are some things that you get residual income, but okay, my point is, just to wrap up what I'm trying to say quickly, is residual income. And even though I have a business degree and was a CPA, I understood residual income, but I didn't get it at a cellular level like I did having been around Kiyosaki for so long, because he just goes, you will always be in the rat race until your residual income is greater than your living expenses. That's freedom. And I really got that then, because true freedom, I think, is time freedom. It's the freedom to should be able to do what you want, when you want. You know, it's a lot of things, and it's different for different people.
Mm-hmm.
But even for the CPAs, the lawyers, the doctors, the professions out there that may love what they're doing, or whatever job you do, you may love it, but are you building residual income?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're not, you should be doing that as well. Mm-hmm. I think that's the greatest message I want to drive home there, because not everyone probably wants to stop being a CPA and work out of home. Maybe it's not an option for everybody.
Yeah, that's what's so great about what we do here. The option is, you know, you can do it full-time, you can do it part-time, you can do it however many hours that you like. And it's funny that you touched on, you know, everybody knew that you were at home, so people would just come on over, you know. I think that's funny because, you know, people would come on over and you're probably like, oh, you know, I was doing this, and you kind of have to rearrange your schedule. I hadn't really thought of it like that. Haven't had that happen to me too much. But, you know, I think you really touched on, you know, the big differences on that. And I mean, you know, when you're 93 years old, you have the option to build residual income. Most people won't be doing their professions at that age, you know, so it's really a good idea to start thinking about and building that residual income now, because as you said, Sue, when you really get it, when you really understand what residual income is, you know, you pretty much walk through a brick wall to get it when you understand what it actually can do for you. Because, you know, within our community here, it's not about the money. It's about what the money can actually do for you and your family. You know, it's about the person that you become in the process. You know, I think back to a few years ago when I first started in this community, and how I've grown as a person is unbelievable. And you can't put a price on that. You can't put a price on those things. And just because we've touched on money, I will say that, you know, our results are not typical. There is an income disclosure at the bottom of this page. You can also visit income.maverixlifestyles.com. You know, we don't guarantee your success. We're here to support you. We're here to help you. We are a community. But it really is, as you mentioned, Sue, you know, you have to be disciplined. You have to be focused. There is nobody to tell you to get up in the morning. You have to get up. You have to put in the work. You have to plan it out. And you have to do it consistently over time to create the results that you want. So on that note, Sue, I really want to thank you for coming out today and sharing this time with us. I've really enjoyed your story, and I think it's really inspiring what you're doing for our community and the message that you're sending out to the world, that there is another way to do things, and people really can be there for their kids and their family. And it's just time to start thinking in a different way. So I'm really, really happy that you came out and shared this time with us today. So thanks for coming out.
My pleasure.
Yeah, definitely. And for everybody who's watching this right now, if you're not already a part of our community, the time is right now. Stop getting ready to get ready. Hit that link below. Contact us. We're real people. We're here to help you. You're not going to feel alone in our community. There is hundreds and thousands of us out there that are here to support you. Get a hold of us, you know, through a Facebook private message, or leave a comment below. Myself or Sue would be happy to chat with you further. You know, we're real people, as I said, and we're really, truly here to help you. So on that note, I want to thank everybody for sharing this time with us today, whether you're watching us live or you're watching the replay. And leave us some comments, leave us some questions below, get a hold of us. And we'll see you on the inside very soon. All right. Have a good night, everybody.